this racetrack.
Yes, indeed. There is a look at the McDonald's car of Newman Haas Racing. A very familiar sight, isn't it? The #1 car out in front. He's won 3 consecutive championships, don't forget. And that was a history-equaling performance, matching the feat of Ted Horn back in the 1940s. And Sebastian Bourdais wants to become the first man to win four consecutive Champ Car World Series titles. And he's certainly looking good this afternoon, and coming off just a dreadful weekend in Las Vegas, where he crashed in qualifying and crashed in a race as well. Most unlike Sebastian Bourdais.
It was very uncharacteristic of Sebastian, although we have seen him have days like that before. I think back to Surfers Paradise last year, where he actually clinched his 3rd championship, did not exactly have the most stellar weekend. And although he is running at the front, willpower has been just a touch quicker in terms of the fastest lap of the race. It's a little bit over a 10th, and so perhaps later in this race we're going to see...
This is exactly the kind of run that Sebastian Bourdais and his team wanted here this weekend. Of course, last weekend we talked a lot about all the problems they had. They were scheduled to test in Phoenix on Monday. They had their travel all set, they were ready to go, and then they realized they had no cars to test. They were all damaged last week in Las Vegas, so instead of testing cars, they were repairing them.
Never something a team likes to do when a test is planned, have to repair cars instead, but sometimes that's the way racing goes. And when you have 3 back-to-back-to-back races starting the season, you have to, it's not expect, but you got to plan for that. That is likely to happen in some of these street courses.
Get on board here with Oriol Servian. It was really nice to have him in the booth here with us last week when you had to disappear and go and do the Atlantic race, James. And I think Oriol had some great insights for us towards the end of that race, and we talked then about how we hoped he would be back in a Champ car as soon as possible. What we didn't hope that it would be PT who was driving for. Let's go around on board with Oriol Servian, James.
Okay, we're coming out of the hairpin now, up through the gears. Like I said before, in the last race in Vegas, you do not see the driver's hand leaving to do gear shifts anymore. It's all done through the paddle shift. As we see Mario Dominguez in the wall, it looks like that was turn 9, end of the back straight, and he has seemed to hit those tires very hard. That isn't turn 9. Heading into turn 10 there, you can see through this parking lot section, we will be going full course caution for this, Jeremy. Here's a replay.
Yes, there's whoa, there goes Bruno Junqueira came through the corner, okay, and Mario just appeared to lose it under braking. He was going sideways and backwards even before the apex.
Frighteningly reminiscent of a practice crash that my teammate at Forsyth Atlantic Championship Racing last year, Andreas Wirth, had in that very corner. There's actually 2 very large bumps entering turn 9, and it's very easy for the car to get unsettled under braking there. So just a tiny mistake for Mario. If his car was just slightly positioned offline, very easy for happen. Unfortunate for him, but now the field's closed up and we get to look forward to a restart, and that could spell trouble or excitement or both. Who knows?
Or both. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And it's the first full course caution of the day. 8 laps in the books here at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, and we'll get back to green flag action very, very soon. But right now, it's Sebastian Bourdais out in front. Cristiano back in action. Had that horrible crash last year at Road America, suffered a very nasty head injury, but he's made an absolutely remarkable recovery. I spoke to him about a month ago and he sounded fabulous. I saw him yesterday. He arrived out at the track yesterday morning, and he's loving being back here at a racetrack. Chances are he won't be at the wheel of a racing car for quite some time yet, but it's just wonderful to see how much he's almost back to normal. So the only thing is he's perhaps been a little too polite these days.
Yeah, I actually saw him just before I came up into the booth, Jeremy, and he's in remarkable spirits, looking very well, and it's very good to see him back at a Champ Car race. So, again, under full course caution for Mario Dominguez's accident. He only had a 3-race deal for Forsyth Championship Racing to start this season, so this is certainly not the result he was looking for, and the pits are open, but right now we're just going to try and see who comes in of the leaders. It looks like everybody's staying out, perhaps a little bit too early to stop.
Yeah, I think so. I think this race here, it's kind of marginal to compete it on 2 pit stops, at least for the leading contenders, but perhaps drivers at the back of the field, in fact, are taking opportunity to come in. All of the leaders stay out, but farther down the field, we see several drivers onto pit lane, led, I believe, by Tristan Gomendy. Down to Marty Snyder.
Oriol Servian hits pit road. It'll be 4 tires. Said the car had a little bit of understeer, but not enough to make a change to it. No chassis changes. They're hoping they get it full of fuel. They had a fueling issue on this car last week. 4 brand new tires.
And a good stop there for Forsyth Championship Racing, and as you can see, Oriol Servian gets out ahead of one of the PKV cars. I think that was Neil Jarney there. Both of...
Down here in Sebastian Bourdais' pit, you see his crew members all gathered around here. There's a piece of equipment back here underneath this cabinet. It's an air supply, and it has air regulators in there. And just a moment ago, there was a problem, and one of the airlines started leaking and sending everybody scattered in all directions. As you can see, the crew is working on a piece of equipment now that should fix this thing, but that's a vital part of this whole pit operation down here, being able to use this to inflate the tires to the proper inflation pressures.
Yeah, very good point there, Bill. And that was Kevin Chambers there, the overall crew chief on the car, who was holding the nozzle there, and on the left was Colin Duff, the long-time man at Newman House Racing, an Englishman with a lot of wealth of experience, first of all in Formula One. We're going to get back to green this time around, so a pretty brief caution period, and then Sebastian Bourdais will lead us up to the green flag once more, James.
Yeah, the Hamaltro safety team did a fantastic job cleaning up that accident quickly, did not spend too much time under caution. The lights are off on the Toyota safety car, which means we are going back to green this time by.
Now, we talked about it a little while, just as they came up to take the full course yellows there, the leaders did not make a pit stop, and it will be Sebastian Bourdais who leads them out of the hairpin. They're trailing through in front of our booth here, absolutely nose to tail coming through the corner, and there goes Bourdais, a brilliant start. Will Power, however, was caught out, and Tagliani gets the jump. Let's look down to turn one, and Tagliani there, I don't know whether was he blocking there or was Power already moving to the other side of the racetrack, but there down to the inside is Graham Rahal under extreme pressure from Robert Dornbos, and just holds him off.
Yeah, it looks like Robert got a good enough of a run to have to pull out to the outside of, so of course Graham not allowed to block in the Champ Car World Series. I don't think he did that. I think the run off the hairpin that Robert got was so good he had to pull out before Graham had moved on to line. So everything back there stays the same, but Alex Tagliani was able to get by Will Power. A great run off the hairpin from him.
And Alex Tagliani really is on form, and he's so much enjoying working with Justin Wilson. The last few years he's really worked with rookie drivers, first of all at Rocket Sports, and then the last 2 years at Team Australia, and now working with an experienced veteran driver like Justin Wilson. They're able to pool their resources as far as the technical team is concerned, the race engineers, and he's making full use of that. He's really improved the car, and Tagliani is absolutely delighted with the way his car has been working.
And Justin Wilson really hasn't been able to match his pace as we ride on board with the number 9 CCW car right now as he climbs up through the gears down Shoreline Drive, and it's unfortunate, like you say early at the top of the show, that Justin really hasn't been able to get on the pace that he was hoping. Big hopes coming into the season with a brand new car, maybe erasing some of the advantage of the Newman Haas Lanigan team, but he really has not been able to match Alex's pace, so he's struggling right now, a little frustrated as we take a look at the restart here, and this is Dornbos going on the outside of the Metazone car into the brake zone, just couldn't get it done.
I think, yes, and I don't think there was a blocking maneuver there, because as you said a little while ago, Dornbos was already sort of poking his nose alongside on the outside as they came around that curving part there of Shoreline Drive.
You know, it's tough. Now that I've seen that replay, he didn't pull out as early as I thought he had originally. So, interesting. I mean, I'm sure Champ Car are looking at it, and they'll make the right call. Tony Cotman's a very sharp guy and very fair, very straight, but very fair.
Yeah, certainly. I think he handed out a couple of warnings in Las Vegas last weekend, the first race of the season, but Graham Rahal, you know, he's been racing in the Atlantic Championship last year. He certainly knows the rules. He knows that the rules are the same in Atlantic as in Champ Car, and he knows you're not allowed to deviate from the racing line. And we talked about this many times.
Guys checked in with Derek Walker, the team owner for Will Power. You see there in the number 5 car tooling around the racetrack. The strategy for them today, as it will be with many teams, try and make this a 2-stop race. Stretch out that fuel as long as you can. As Derek told me, the key today will be how fast can you run a lap and save fuel at the same time.
Yeah, thanks. And that's certainly going to be a key aspect of this race, because it's a 1 hour and 40-minute race. Michelle Beisner is down on pit lane with Cristiano da Matta. We're trying to get down there in just a moment or two. But at the moment, as we've heard there from the pit lane, the drivers are just trying to save fuel, making sure that they can get to the finish on just 2 pit stops this afternoon and not have to come in for a splash in the late stages. So right now, the drivers are keeping one eye on their fuel consumption. The way they do that is that when they get towards the end of the straight, they actually lift off the throttle just a little bit early and literally let the car coast in towards the braking area, and then get on the brakes hard at the very last minute, get the car turned in, and try and feather in the throttle.
I mean, he's just a flatliner, never gets excited, same sentiment. I asked him, what was his last week like after that first big victory? He said, I can't believe how many interview requests I got from back in Australia. Every time I turned around, my cell phone was ringing.
That does happen when you win your first Champ Car race, so no doubt Will enjoying this. Down to Michelle in the pits.
Somebody that we're very happy to see roaming the pits is Cristiano da Matta, who suffered a season-ending injury last year, but you look fantastic. Tell me, how are you feeling?
I feel I'm ready to go back to the race car. Of course, I'm in touch with my doctors all the time, and I've been in touch with them. Of course, I try to be as fortunate as I can. I think I've already been fortunate to recover so quick from the whole thing. But one thing I keep on thinking right now is like they allowed me to ride my mountain bike, so the race car cannot be too far away. You know, that must be close.
I like that answer. Thanks a lot, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, certainly great to hear him. He's such an upbeat character, and you know, to think of him lying there in a coma in that hospital in Neenah, Wisconsin for well, what, 4 or 5 weeks after his crash at Road America. He hit a deer during a test session, just a real freak crash, and it's wonderful to see him now up and around and talking about getting back into a race car again. And he says he's got lots of offers to get back into a race car, just to do some laps in Brazil in Formula 3 or stock cars or whatever. But he's a sensible young man, and he's going to wait until he gets the go-ahead from the doctors. So back to Long Beach, California. Lap 15 is in the books. Here's still Sebastian Bourdais out in front, and Alex Tagliani, Will Power, and Simon Pagenaud. And then this man, Graham Rahal, running in 5th place, the rookie driver, still just 18 years of age. He's still on his spring break from high school. This is his final year of high school. He goes to school in New Albany, Ohio, where he lives, of course, with his dad, Bobby. And he's just done a super job this weekend. Also some mechanical glitches in the early part of the weekend. He couldn't get the gear shift working properly on that number 2 Medizone car. It's come around, and Graham Rahal is turning a very good early pace here.
He's doing a fantastic job right now as he heads through the slippery turn 10 section, and certainly in stark contrast to his weekend just 7 days ago in Las Vegas, where he was out before he even took the green flag, to be honest. He had made contact with the wall coming out of the last corner, coming up to the start of the race, but right now doing an absolutely phenomenal job chasing down last year's championship rival for the Atlantic Championship, Simon Pagenaud. And as you head into the brake zone, you look here, Graham very, very good on the brakes, using a lot of curb in the first corner. Very smooth on the hands is Graham Rahal, and that's really important in these very high horsepower Champ cars. You can see he's on the red sidewall Bridgestone tires as he heads through corner 4. Again, a lot of curb there. Now, the curbs here, you can't get too much on. It's a heavy off-camber corner, a little bit of oversteer. You can see his hands working there as he gets on the power. Now we're going to head down into turn 6. It's a downhill brake zone into an uphill exit. Often a big understeer. Graham looks like his car's handling very well right now. So down into turn 8 and onto the back straight. He's doing a fantastic job. Yeah,
he certainly is, and you know, it's still a long, long way to go in this race, and he's just you know, settling into a pace. His race in Las Vegas was over really before it began. Just 1 lap into the race, and the first lap was run under yellow, as you'll remember, and then he hit the wall, well, within a few yards of the start-finish line. So that was not the way he wanted to start the season, but you know, he really is driving a heads-up race this afternoon. I'm sure he's just content there to sit in line, look after the car, and save a little bit of fuel. That's the biggest thing at this point of the race, Jeremy, is to save a little bit of fuel so that your first pit stop can be that much shorter. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for him. It's something new to him, so he's learning how to do the fuel saving technique right now. So there is Alex Tagliani. We're trying to get a word with Paul Gentilozzi. Bill Stevens, who's with him in the pit lane. Paul Gentilozzi, of course, the owner of this R-Sport organization, along with Dan Pettit, who now
here with Paul Gentilozzi, who runs the show for Alex Tagliani. I noticed during practice this weekend a lot of work on spring packages, handling. Have you had a chance to evaluate the car? It's running well, but are you happy with what it's doing?
No, he's made a good race car. You know, Alex never needs a note from home to be aggressive. So he's taken a couple positions. Right now we're working on fuel economy. The car's balanced. We're in pretty good shape.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Remember last week in Las Vegas, they had a miscalculation. They gambled on fuel, and it may have cost them the victory in Las Vegas.
Yeah, certainly their strategy was not particularly good last weekend. Spoke to Phil Howard, the team manager, there afterwards, and he was kicking himself, saying, hey, 9 times out of 10, I follow the race leader. That's generally what you do, particularly when you're running towards the front of the pack. And Tagliani led several laps in Las Vegas, and at that time they elected to go their own way because they were worried about the longevity of the red sidewall Bridgestone Potenza tires. And that really didn't turn out to be a factor last weekend, and because of that sort of wishy-washy perhaps decision-making process there by Phil. Perhaps slip back a couple of positions where he might have done, but still, 4th place is a great way to start the year.
Yeah, it really is. He's running very well. As we see Oriol Serbia, it looks like he slipped by the PKV entry of Tristan Gomedi to move up one more spot. So he is